Victoria Tremont longs to find that special someone, but she's surprised to find out that her charm doesn't work on everyone. This story begins with our protagonist, Victoria. She is harvesting some flowers when her elderly neighbor approaches her. She complains about the fast driving that has been going on and how she's scared of it. The neighbor takes a look at the garden and gets mesmerized by the beautiful flowers. She compliments Victoria on her work and says that her grandma would have been pleased to see such a sight. Victoria smiles and hands her some of the flowers. Grandma can't help but be curious, so she asks Victoria about her date the previous night. Victoria says that it was good, but she isn't so sure of it. Her neighbor tells her that when the right one comes she won't doubt herself. They settle on having a power walk later on in the day, as the grandma leaves to help the other neighbors pack. We see a young man getting into the driveway of Sun City Church. He gets out of the car and grabs a box to take with him. Before entering the church, he gets inside and heads to the office. The scene then cuts to Victoria, who is at work. She hands a customer a cup of coffee with a flirtatious smile. Her coworker asks her about her date once the customer leaves, and she tells her that she had a great time, but the date was too fancy. She says that she felt stuck and doesn't know what to do with her love life in general. Victoria says that fancy dinners may not be something she wants anymore, or maybe it's just the company. She asks her coworker whether she should be more social, and she tells her that she goes out every night, so there's no need for that. Her coworker invites her to a concert that will be held in the church in 3 weeks, and that way she can meet some new people. And even though Victoria isn't really a church person, she says yes. At that moment, the bell on the entrance door rings and catches the server's attention. In walks Ron, a guy that Victoria had been on a date with. He hands her some beautiful flowers and asks her to talk. She tells him to grab a table and places the flowers in the vase. The scene then cuts to the man from the church. His name is Jason. We see Jason unpacking and ready to settle in the office when the pastor comes to greet him. They meet each other, and the pastor hands him a cup of coffee as a welcome gift. In walks Chris. He invites Jason for a cup of coffee because the pastor's coffee is really bad. Chris asks Jason about his girlfriend Rachel, and Jason tells him that she is the major reason for his move. Over at the cafe, Victoria is having a conversation with Ron. He tells her that his CEO is hosting a fundraiser and wants her to be his plus one. She says yes and asks for the date because she needs to get her hair done. He tells her that it is in 3 weeks from that day, and she smiles in excitement. Ron leaves and Victoria gets back to her job. Jason and Chris come into the cafe. Victoria asks her coworker about Jason. She tells her that Jason is an old buddy of Chris from college. Jason introduces himself to Chris's wife and apologizes for not attending the wedding. Victoria interrupts the conversation and introduces herself to Jason as the best coworker. Jason doesn't pay much attention to her, which surprises her because her charm works on everyone. Jason gets back to the conversation with Chris and his wife and reveals that he's having a great time so far. Victoria doesn't miss the chance to interrupt again and asks Jason whether he sees something that he likes with a flirtatious look. He tells her that he wants peanut butter mocha as he gets back to the conversation, ignoring her again. Victoria is dumbfounded as she realizes that Jason is not giving in, so she goes to make the coffee. He tells Chris's wife that he is excited to start working and says that Chris has done a great job in spreading the word about their charity organization. They leave, but Victoria can't seem to get Jason out of her head. She asks her coworker what is up with him and why is he ignoring her, but her coworker tells her that she must not be his type. Victoria doesn't accept that and says that as long as he's alive and single, she will be his type eventually. Later on in the day, as Victoria is cleaning the table, she spots the poster for Jason's organization. She takes the poster off the wall and reads it. It is volunteer work to build a house for a family in need. She goes to her sister's place the next day and they sit in the backyard. She asks Victoria to watch her kids on Monday, but Victoria tells her that she has a hair appointment and that if she doesn't do it, everyone will know that her hair isn't natural. Her sister tells her that everyone already knows that her hair isn't natural and that she really needs her help. Victoria agrees and asks her sister what she had to do. Her sister, visibly distraught, says that she has some appointments. Victoria checks her watch and her sister asks her whether she has to go somewhere. She says that she has to go to a volunteer thing and that she doesn't want to be late. Her sister can't believe that she is volunteering for something because it's not her thing, but realizes that it's about a guy. Victoria tells her that she is volunteering because she wants to get closer to Jason, who is the organizer of the whole thing. Her sister is impressed and asks what the organization is about. Victoria takes the poster from her purse and hands it to her. Her sister asks her whether she has some tools, and Victoria says that she won't need any tools with a confused face. Her sister lets her know that it is an organization that helps build houses, and she will have to put some work into it. She might even chip a nail. Her sister tells her that it's a Christian organization as well, meaning that Jason is Christian. That doesn't sit well with Victoria, as she realizes that he probably won't date someone who isn't Christian as well. Victoria calms down and says that she will pretend to be Christian. Her sister informs her that he will notice eventually, but that doesn't faze Victoria as she believes that he would be totally in love with her when he notices, and that will prevent him from leaving her. It is time for the organization to start. Jason is getting ready to make his speech and Chris is by his side. He asks him whether they should wait a bit more, but Jason tells him that's probably how many people will come, and they should get started immediately. Jason begins his speech by thanking everybody for being there. He introduces himself as Jason Homan, but his speech is interrupted by Victoria's entrance. He continues his speech but gets distracted by Victoria's appearance. He manages to finish the speech. Victoria approaches Jason and says that his speech was great. He thanks her and says that he is glad she had been able to join them. She asks him how he liked his new job, and he tells her that he likes it a lot. She goes on to invite him to get to know the town better, and even says that she can make herself available all the time. He asks her to write down her number, and she writes it immediately. She wants to continue the conversation, but gets interrupted by Chris asking whether they're finished. Jason says they are, and Victoria looks at the sheet of paper and realizes that she had written her number on the volunteer list. She leaves, and Chris tells Jason that he had come to save him from the situation. He tells him that he needs to stay away from Victoria because she can be a handful. Jason smiles, and Chris tells him at least they know that she will show up for sure. Monday comes and we see Victoria's sister getting in the driveway of her house. She is clearly upset as she looks at her wedding ring, with a sad look on her face. She gets into the house and her children greet her. She hugs them and thanks Victoria for making dinner. She invites her to the kitchen. Victoria helps her set the table and they talk about Jason. She says that whatever she does, it does not help her get close to him. As soon as her sister starts talking, she gets an idea. She says that she will have to play by his rules if she wants to play in his field. She leaves in a hurry and gets to studying as soon as she gets home. She sits down, takes her notebooks, and opens her laptop to do some research. She searches for how to be a Christian. She spends her whole day learning about Christianity and doesn't notice that it has gotten dark outside. She reads some Christian terminology and writes it down for the next morning. Megan decides to listen to Victoria's advice, and the next morning as she tries to flirt with Wyatt, but fails miserably. She asks him for some nails even though they are right in front of her. She tries to blink seductively, but Wyatt thinks there's something in her eye. She leaves embarrassed as both Chris and Wyatt give her a weird look. Victoria spends her night learning about the structure of a house. She wants to know how to build it so she can impress Jason. She shows up the next morning in proper clothes, her own helmet, and even her own pink vest. She gets out of the car and starts taking selfies. Jason sees her and believes that she isn't there to help, and that disappoints him. Victoria goes over to Megan and shows her new outfit. Megan tells her that they have a lot to do, so they get to working immediately. Victoria asks her about Wyatt, but Megan tells her that it was a complete failure. Victoria starts using Christian terminology such as God loves you and Jesus is there for you out of context, and that makes most of her fellow volunteers confused. The girls get to their station and Jason joins them. Victoria makes sure she doesn't get anything wrong, so she checks her notebook for some Christian quotes. Megan goes to help Wyatt, so Jason and Victoria are left alone. She starts talking about the structure of the house, and Jason is both confused and impressed because she knew so much. Jason mentions that his go-to scripture is Matthew 19:26, and even though Victoria doesn't understand what he's talking about, she says that it's her favorite as well. She tries to lean on their station, which is made out of wood, but she ends up falling on the ground. She is so embarrassed, she cannot look Jason in the eyes. He helps her to get up and she picks the nails to put them back in the packaging. Jason goes to greet the family and Megan comes to help Victoria. The family arrives and all of the volunteers gather together to greet them. The mother, Alina, and her 2 children get out of the house and are more than excited to greet everyone. Alina thanks everybody for doing such amazing work. As a single mother working 2 jobs, it had been more than hard to make ends meet. She thanks God for sending those wonderful people who are willing to give their time to help someone in need. After meeting the family, everyone gets back to work. The mother, Alina, goes inside the house to see how it is going. She touches the unfinished walls as tears fall down her cheeks. She is happy that she can raise her children in a warm and beautiful home. Victoria sees the woman in the hall and approaches her. She introduces herself and the mother tells her that she's so grateful for their work. It has been hard on her ever since her husband left her alone with the kids. Victoria says that she had been there. Her parents divorced when she was 5 and that took a toll on her. Alina tells her a quote that will stick with her forever. She tells her that God will never give her more than she can handle. Victoria smiles and asks her what she meant by that. Alina tells her that she had asked God to provide a home for them, and here she is with a stranger next to her, building her a home. Victoria talks to her sister later on in the night and says that meeting Alina's girls had reminded her of them so much. Victoria stops the conversation and says that she realized at that moment that the whole organization is for people like Alina. She starts feeling bad as she's been getting in the way of that. Her sister tells her that she's not getting in the way and it's been great to see her change for the better. She's finally starting to realize it, and she should use that to build that house. Victoria hangs up the call and goes to search for what Matthew 19:26 is about. She goes to the other room and takes her note. She asks her assistant to read it for her, and right after reading it, a car hits her house, making a large mess and scaring Victoria. She goes over to her sister's house, and her sister lets her stay there as long as she needs. Victoria thanks her and heads upstairs to brush her teeth. She overhears her nephews talking. One of them is crying and saying that their father will get back. Her sister notices that she had overheard the conversation and gets honest with her. She tells her that her husband had found someone else, and that she had been ashamed to admit it because she thinks that she had not fought hard enough to save her marriage. She says that she doesn't know what to do and she needs to find a way to support the family. Victoria tells her that she will be there for her as she hugs her tightly. They all go to bed, but Victoria finds herself unable to fall asleep. She gets up and grabs the Bible her grandma had given her. She decides to start reading it and gets some clarity while doing so. Jason comes into the cafe in the morning, and that surprises Victoria. She greets him, and Jason says that he had come to visit her because she hadn't been to the house for a week. She tells him that she's fine, and the reason she hadn't volunteered is that a car had hit her house, so getting that sorted out has been a mess. Jason is sorry, but she tells him it's nothing to worry about. He tells her that they're running into a bit of a problem with the house, as well as the family is going to move in a week earlier. And with the number of volunteers, they're not going to be able to finish it in time. They finish the conversation, and as Jason walks out, Victoria's neighbor walks in. Victoria gets an idea as a smile grows on her face. Jason goes back to the house, and sometime later Victoria does as well. She tells him that she had come to help them build the house, and Jason laughs at her, thinking that she's the only one. A group of elderly volunteers comes from behind them, ready to make the house as soon as possible. The team ends up working all day, and they get a lot done. After painting, decorating, and building, the house is closer to being finished, and the family is closer to getting a new home. Jason thanks Victoria after working and says that she is more than a generous person. They go to her house, and she shows him the wall the car had crashed in. Jason tells her that she had been protected. She asks him to explain what he meant by that. He tells her that God had known that the guy was going to crash into her house, and he protected her by letting her take her notebook. She says that it could have been a coincidence, but he tells her that he doesn't believe in coincidences, and that it was just faith. Victoria invites him for a cup of coffee, and he says yes. They get inside, and Jason is impressed by the old look of the house. He asks her about it, and she says that it was her grandma's house. She had moved there when her parents got divorced, because her mother had to work a lot and wasn't able to take care of her. She asks him about his family situation, and he says that his parents are still married, and that he has a brother, but they all live in California. She asks him about the reason for his move, and he says that it's mostly about his job. Victoria gets curious and asks what he had meant mostly. He opens up that he had been in a relationship. They were even engaged. He had found faith, and she had found a reason to dump him. Victoria tries to find out more details, and Jason cuts her off by saying that he needs to go. So, Victoria doesn't say anything. On the way out, Victoria opens up to Jason. She tells him that she's new to faith and that she's still learning. Jason tells her that it's fine and that he is new to the whole thing as well. When he found God, he found out that he didn't need to pretend to be someone else, and he could be comfortable with him. Victoria starts to feel bad because everything about her was fake. She had lied to the man she likes, and that saddens her. She says that she needs to watch her sister's kids and says goodbye. Jason heads back to his office but returns to Victoria quickly. He tells her about the concert on the weekend and invites her to go with him. She asks him whether he's asking her on a date, and he says that it depends on her answer. She smiles and says that she would love to. Victoria receives a text from Ron asking her about their date. She sighs as she realizes that she had forgotten about it. She goes to her sister's house and tells her about the date with Ron. Her sister tells her to go to the concert with Jason, but Victoria says that she can't blow off her date with Ron. Her sister tells her that she has done it in the past, but what was the difference now? Victoria says that she doesn't even know who she is anymore, and her sister tells her that maybe she's starting to realize who she is. She tells her that if there's a chance with Jason, she shouldn't blow it off. This puts Victoria in a thought, and her sister tells her that she shouldn't be afraid of a real relationship. Victoria decides to do some more research. She sits down and types how to act like a Christian, but changes it quickly as she realizes she wants to be better, so she types how to be Christian. She reads different quotes and instructions online and opens up the Bible as well. As she's doing research and finding her new purpose in life, a text from both Jason and Ron comes up on the screen. Jason texts her saying that he's so excited about the weekend, and Ron texts her that they need to talk about the weekend. This puts Victoria in a dilemma because she isn't sure what she wants. She goes to work the next day, rather confused and quiet. Her coworker asks her whether everything was okay because she wasn't being herself. She doesn't answer everything. Jason walks in and Victoria is quick to turn around so she wouldn't face Jason. He orders his coffee and tries to talk to Victoria. She says hello to him but sees Ron walking in and tells him to grab a table. Jason says that he has to rush back to the house and he can't grab a table, but Ron interrupts him by saying hello to Victoria. He looks at Jason and asks her whether Jason is the reason she has been avoiding her phone calls. Once Jason realizes what the man was talking about, he goes to the side, not believing what he had witnessed. Ron tells Victoria that the date is really important to him and he assumes that she would be ready. Victoria nods her head and Ron hands her a bouquet of flowers. He asks her about the weekend again and she says yes. Jason grabs his coffee and throws the money on the counter. He is visibly upset and angry as he turns his back to leave. Right before he exits the cafe, he throws the cup of coffee to the side because of his anger. He gets out of the cafe and tries to calm down. Victoria comes running after him. She tells him that she had forgotten about her date with Ron and that it was an honest mistake. Jason cuts her off by saying that he should have listened to Chris. Victoria gets confused and asks what Chris had said about her. He tells her that he had warned him off of her. Victoria says that's not fair and says that she had wanted to go out with him as he had been trying to make him ask her out for weeks. Jason congratulates her on her win. She got what she wanted. He asked her out and the victory is hers. Victoria says that it isn't like that and she had overbooked herself. Jason gets pissed off even more and tells her that he's not her side piece. He tries to walk off but Victoria stops him. He asks her the reason for her volunteering and she says that she volunteered because she wanted to get to know him and she wanted him to like her. That was the reason she pretended to be a Christian as well. Jason's eyes are filled with tears as he asks whether she pretended to care when he told her about Rachel. She says of course not, but Jason shakes his head and tells her to stay away from him. Victoria is left heartbroken. Tears fill her eyes as she stands alone in front of the cafe. Jason goes back to the house and continues the work. He is pissed off, angry, heartbroken, and even sad. Chris approaches him and asks him whether everything was all right. He tells him that he had been right about Victoria and Chris says he's sorry as he pats his back. Jason and Victoria keep their distance at work and everyone notices it. Megan comes to her and asks her about the situation. Victoria decides to be honest with her as she has been a good friend to her. She pulls her to the side and admits that she's not a Christian. Megan looks at her confused and asks her why she didn't tell her. Victoria says that she doesn't know and that the whole situation had been complicated. She wanted them to like her mostly, and Megan cuts her off by saying that if she wanted people to like her, she has to let them know the real her. Megan can't believe that she had listened to Victoria. She tricked her into making Wyatt like her, and made her pretend to be someone else, and because of that Wyatt thinks that she is a weirdo. Megan leaves Victoria by saying that she would have been her friend no matter if she was Christian or not. Victoria is left in tears and her heart breaks as she sees Megan sitting on the sidewalk crying. Wyatt goes to check on her and Victoria turns her head but sees Jason already glaring at her. Jason finishes his work in the office and right as he's about to leave, Rachel knocks on his door. He asks her how she had gotten there. She didn't know where he was, and seeing her there was surprising. She says that she had called his mom. She had called Chris as well, but he didn't tell her. Jason doesn't know how to react or even what to say. Rachel tries to do some small talk, but Jason is quiet. Rachel reveals that she had been rehearsing what she was going to say to him, but when she saw him, she forgot all of the words. She tells him that she misses him and that she wants him back. Jason tries to be reasonable, but she asks him whether he had missed her as well. He tells her that he is, but it isn't worth it, because they had been down that road before. He says that they're different people and it is never going to work out. Rachel tries to argue with him, saying that just because they're different people doesn't mean that they're not good for each other. Jason tells her that his faith is the most important part of who he is, and it is who he is at the end of the day. She tries to argue by saying that she can get along with it and that she's willing to do whatever it takes. He tells her that he doesn't want her to just go along with him and that faith doesn't work like that. She tells him that he isn't being fair and hands him her room number while saying that she's only there until tomorrow and would love to see him again. Jason feels confused and sad as exits his office. Chris sees him from the hallway and calls him over. Jason goes next to him and asks him about his marriage. How is he able to make it work and not make it complicated? Chris tells him that all he needs to do is work on their relationship. You make a choice to love each other and be there for one another, and every problem they have, they solve together. Jason tells him that Rachel had come back, and she's waiting for him to make a choice. She is ready to make it work. Chris asks him his opinion on it, and Jason says that he needs to think about it. Set comes and we see Victoria in a beautiful gown. She looks beautiful from the outside, but she feels terrible on the inside. Her sister is trying to cheer her up by saying that she's proud of her for finishing the house in time for the family, and she should be proud of herself as well. She asks her whether she's sure about going to the party with Ron, and she tells her that it's easier for her to stick to what she knows. Her sister tells her that she needs to try to have fun because she deserves it. Victoria is cut off by a ring in the door, so she heads out after saying goodbye. She gets in the limo with Ron and feels uncomfortable immediately. They arrive at the hotel and instead of receiving a compliment, Victoria is told that her hair looks undone by Ron. She tries to explain herself, but he cuts her off by saying whatever and dragging her to the party. She notices immediately that Ron pretends in front of his colleagues so they like him. It reminds her of what she did to Jason and she gets sad. We see Jason with his ex. He tells her that it is over and she leaves as tears start falling down her cheeks. We see a rather bored Victoria standing with Ron at the party. A colleague of Ron's comes to greet them and Ron introduces her as his girlfriend. Victoria is taken aback by the sudden words but decides to play along. She asks Ron why he had lied and he tells her to roll with it for the night. Jason decides to go to the concert alone as he pulls up in the driveway. He gets inside and spots Chris and his wife. On the other side of town, we see sad Victoria looking through the window at the party. Ron comes up to her and invites her to show her something. She tells him that she doesn't want to pretend anymore. She is not his arm candy. He asks her why she's being so difficult, and she tells him that she needs honest people, and she expects the same for herself. She leaves Ron at the party and rushes to make it to the concert. She's driving on the way there when the rain starts pouring all of a sudden. She gets to the concert in time and grabs a magazine to act as an umbrella. She gets inside just as the concert finishes and tries to find a seat. The pastor comes on stage and asks someone to come up and share their story and their testimony. The pastor sees Victoria standing and invites her to come on the stage. Even though she doesn't want to, she gets on stage. Jason, who had already gone outside, comes back to hear her speech after hearing her voice on the microphone. Victoria shares her truth. She had only known about superficial relationships, and that was a way of protecting herself from getting hurt. But she didn't know that she would meet a guy who would change her habit forever. She admits that what she had done to this guy was wrong, and she treated the whole situation like a game. While she was pretending to know what she was doing, she started to serve. She found her faith, and she had finally learned how to be a Christian. She finishes her speech by saying that she doesn't want to be like the older. She wants to serve God and be kind to others. She apologizes to everyone she has hurt and hurries off of the stage. Tears fill her eyes as she runs to the bathroom to hide. Megan comes after her. She sees her in such a state and comforts her. She thanks her for making her feel confident and reveals that it helped her tell Wyatt how she felt. Victoria smiles and hugs Megan while congratulating her. Megan walks Victoria to the bathroom and she leaves. Right after Victoria leaves, Jason comes running to Megan and asks her whether she's seen Victoria. She tells him that she had just left and he should go after her. He runs off, trying to find her in the parking lot. Jason searches for her in the rain and finds her only when she starts her car and goes to leave. He jumps in front of the car and she hits the brakes. He apologizes to her for not listening and says that he had heard what she said about him earlier. They smile at each other and kiss in the pouring rain. The next morning, we see all of the volunteers gathered in front of the house waiting for the family. Everyone is so happy and so proud of themselves. Victoria's sister comes to her and they have a talk. She tells Victoria that she had gotten a job and is finally able to relax. Victoria hugs her sister and congratulates her. She looks over to Jason and asks her what the situation is. Victoria says that they're taking things slow. All of them gather around to say a prayer for the house and the new home for Alina and her kids. Victoria congratulates Jason, and he says he couldn't have done it without her as they share a sweet kiss.